Hey there, this is Therese Skelly, and I am so excited that you are going to be listening to an episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. Do you like those two words? Fiercely brilliant. My hypothesis is that you are here for a reason. We all are. Our souls have led us on journeys that have very often taken some twists and turns, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's struggle and there's loss and there's challenge, and in the middle of that, there's always a way out. And it's those times that often lead us into our great life and work. So you're going to hear stories in these episodes of myself and other beautiful people that share the journey. They share how they got to the place where they're standing, working in their brilliance, and being the powerful leaders that they are. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Hey, this is Therese Skelly of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. And today I want to talk about a topic that I personally love, but is really difficult. It's trauma. And more importantly, how trauma impacts your ability to create impact, influence, and income. Now, hold on. Some of you are going, oh God, why are you doing this? Can't we just talk about how to get better headlines? No, we can't. Not on my show. Because I want you to live a fiercely brilliant life. And my idea is we go through things. Our soul, in essence, allows things to happen, sets up situations whereby we get to overcome, we get to learn, we get to grow, we get enriched by some of these experiences so that we can do our great work in the world. Now, I don't know if you know my background. I used to be a psychotherapist, master's degree. I practiced for years and years and years and years and years. And then in 2001, I became a life coach. And shortly thereafter, I literally stumbled into the world of business coaching. And I got really good at learning the outer game stuff. I got very good at teaching, selling, and learning marketing strategy. And I can help you with your copywriting. And I'm great at messaging and all that kind of stuff. But what was happening is I would literally come up with these brilliant strategies for my clients. Like, oh my God, this is it. This is a 6-figure strategy. You're going to rock it. And then 3 weeks later, they'd come back and be like, oh, I couldn't do it. And they couldn't do it not because they were lazy or because they were stupid or they were intentionally sabotaging themselves. What I came to realize is that most of us have experienced big T trauma and sometimes small T trauma that have impacted us, right? And so now my work is helping these, alpha women, high achievers, basically get out of their own way. Because most people that I work with are really smart. They know what to do, but they don't understand why they can't do it. I talked with a woman, last year that was so smart. She's such a hustler. She's a really well-known, probably making $500,000 by now year coach. Brilliant. And she said, I know that I have to pick up the phone and get speaking gigs, but I cannot. Now she knows how to do it. It's not for a lack of knowledge. But I was able to say, okay, let's go back to your childhood. Let's, I use a pendulum and I'm like an intuitive, so I can just find exactly where the origination of the block is, or the faulty belief, or just the energy that's held us back. So today I want to talk about 3 reasons why you are not getting the impact and income that you want. And the reason I do both of those together, truthfully, not everybody wants to build an empire. Not everybody wants a 6-figure business. But pretty much everybody I work with wants to make a difference. They want to reach as many people as they can. They'd want to do their great work in the world. So if that's you, let's go. All right. Let's start with this one. The reason you may be holding back or haven't reached the potential you have because of the childhood or the trauma or the wounding or what you've experienced, you don't have permission to be here. Now, on one hand, it's like, well, of course, what are you talking about? I know. Let me back up. have you ever had the experience of walking into a room and having a moment of like, is it okay that I be here? Like I literally have people ask me for permission to do the work they want to do, or permission to be the greatness that they know to be, or permission to charge what they know they should charge. And so very often when you've been exposed to trauma, there is like, I'll give you a couple stories. I had a client one time who was told, oh, you're the pretty one. Your sister's the smart one. So why don't you just get a husband? Because you're the pretty one, you'll be able to do that. I've also had multiple times where people would say, oh, I was supposed to be a boy. My parents wanted a boy. I was the wrong gender. I've had stories when I tapped into, I'm working on building somebody's business and I'm guided to go to, like, what's your birth story? What was going on with your mother? And I've literally had multiples of people say, oh yeah, my dad tried to kill my mom she was pregnant, or my dad, left because my mom was pregnant, or whatever it was. I've had people that are the product of a rape. So think of that early imprinting, like you're conceived and then it's like, ah, shit, it's you. Why are you here? That gets imprinted into your cells. So you show up as an adult not fully giving yourself permission to be here. And there's no greater pain than that little hesitancy of like, is it okay? Like, is it okay that I'm alive? Is it okay that I'm saying what I'm saying? Is it okay that I'm standing on the stage that I'm standing on, that I'm saying I'm the expert I am? Is that okay? And so if you have that because of your early history, it's really hard to have the impact and income that you need, right? Okay, so the second one is, if you've had any degree of trauma at all, you don't understand your value. I grew up in really traumatic, chaotic, alcoholism, abuse, insanity kind of home, right? And so my value, I became the little mommy. I became the helper. I literally became a therapist because I was having to do therapy. I became, if I just be good, if I just be needless, if I just take care of everybody, then I'll get a tiny bit of recognition and maybe love. But I'm only of value if I'm doing for people, or if I'm good enough, right? And what happens is that sets up when my clients come to me and say, oh, I need another certification, or I can't do that until I get another license, and I got to start this other degree, and I'm like, stop. Yes, you have to have credentials or you have to have, basic skill sets. But when you have been raised in an unpredictable or chaotic environment, or you've had things that happen to you that have, created trauma. And like, for example, maybe it was just so simple as somebody left you. And it's like, really? Aren't I good enough to stick around for? Maybe as a child, your father abandoned the family when you were 3 and you made the unconscious decision, oh, I guess I must be bad because why would daddy leave me? Maybe you had a miscarriage, and so you determined that, well, something must be wrong with me, so I'm not that good of a person. See, a lot of the I call the little t trauma versus the big T trauma. You were raped, you witnessed a horrible violent accident, but the little t trauma, a little t trauma for me was I was the sickly kid in school, and I was never picked for sports. I was always the like, oh God, you got to take her. What do you think that like that one incident, or that series of incidents, informed so much of my pain of my life, of not being good enough, not being welcome, not being included, being different, being less than, like, that shit really, really, really sets you up. Again, that's just a little t trauma, or what they call little t trauma. But I want you to understand, you have a series of those. Maybe you were bullied a little bit. Maybe, those are the little tiny things that happen that we don't factor in. And they literally wire your brain in a way that you create beliefs for yourself unconsciously, of course, that says, well, I can't charge that much. And I have to give so much to keep everybody happy. And I have to work all the time. And I can't say no to anybody. And God, it's not even that good. And Tony Robbins already does it. And everybody already knows this. Those are symptoms of undervaluing, right? You hear where I'm going with this? So the first one is you don't have permission to be here, be on the planet, in the industry, on the stage, with the high-level clients. The second one is you don't understand the value of your work because you don't understand the value of your being. And the third one, you're still being driven by a trauma response. So trauma response to me is anytime shame kicks in, and I think I have a podcast just specifically on shame. You should look at that one or listen to that one because that's very powerful and instructive and kind of unique. Not a lot of people talk about shame the way I do. The shame is you're not enough. You're not enough. You're just not enough. No matter what you do, just not enough. Or maybe your trauma response is like a false self. Like I developed I'll just be the perfect student. I'll be the happy all the time. I'll be like a little cheerleader. I'll just be the most helpful one. I like had this role where I never could be real. I could never share vulnerability. I had to be perfect and in control all the time because that was my persona, that the attempt was to get my needs met by doing that. That doesn't last though, right? So if you have to show up and you can't do a photo shoot because, my God, you have a wrinkle, or you can't write an email because what if you get it wrong? And like when like that not enoughness or perfection kicks in, it's really hard to run a business if trauma is informing it, right? Because as you know, farther you go on the ladder of growing your business, shit's going to happen. You're going to lose stuff. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to be more visible. You're going to have to grow in your leadership. You're going to have to like be more powerful with your messaging. And if you have this underpinning, like a false self, or I have to please everybody all the time, I can't say no to anybody, or does it even matter? Like those are the things that are really, really, really going to slow your progress down. Okay, have I been Debbie Downer or what? And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but I think sometimes it's really instructive to go, holy shit, that's why that's happened. No wonder, because seriously, I work with women that are brilliant and they know exactly what they need to do. And yet they come to me saying, I can't do it, or I screwed it up, or right? And it's not for lack of willpower, for lack of trying. It's literally the unconscious or the energy of the trauma or the old stuff just gets in there and just makes them stop. All right. So here's a couple things. I'm going to go over a few tips, how to navigate the trauma piece, how to release some of it, what to think about it. And then I have a gifty for you. I have this beautiful, like a process of releasing trauma, because that's what it is my hypothesis is we're carrying so much from our history, so much old stuff, so much pain, so much other people's stuff. I mean, I brought in, the suffering of the potato famine from my Irish relatives, right? I brought in my grandfather's diseases and weakness and like that. We bring in all this stuff. I carry my mother's shame and my, blah, 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 blah. We carry it, we don't even know. And yet it lives in us. And so I have this beautiful meditation process that I want to take you through. And so what you want to do is you want to go to thereseskelly.com/clearing, CLEARING. And it's going to be in the show notes as well. It's like 10 minutes, it's not that long, but it's an example of the work I do. And I'll give you a specific process so you can start to let some of this go. All right, so here we go. How in the world do you make trauma okay, or navigate some of it, go through some of this? All right, the first one is you find the gifts in it. That kind of is like, ugh, right? What? Are you kidding me? There's gifts in somebody dying. There's gifts in this. I just interviewed Shannon when she did a podcast, and she suffered 6 miscarriages. And that changed the trajectory of her life. She had been a teacher, an unhappy teacher. And after all the miscarriages, when she was on her journey, she was like, I want to help other women. And so think about that. She was allowed to go through, she was gifted those things, if you will, because her sole purpose is to support other women who are in the miscarriage journey, right? And so you might not be able to find it the minute that you start this. You got to be far enough past the grief or the trauma or whatever. But there are gifts in everything we go through. And then the second thing is, if you understand that your soul, at least this is what I believe, our souls allow us to have experiences. I'm like, a huge thing for me is when my husband of 20 years was like, yeah, your services are done, right? I was shocked. I was kind of a kept woman. He made a whole bunch of money and I didn't need to, I worked, but it was not, you know. And in the last, since I got divorced, however many years ago, I became my own woman. I became the strongest version of myself I've ever been. I have the greatest relationship. I've had so much fun sex and adventure and things that I never would have had that man not left me. And yet at the time, it was the most horrific thing that happened. So the gift of that one event has led me to all kinds of things that are just magical. So at a certain point, you absolutely can start finding the gifts in it. And that will help you go, oh, I had to go through that, but look at the blessing in it. Okay, the next one is to love the wounded parts. And that's part of the little exercise if you get the clearing process I'm going to do. There are parts of us that have been traumatized. And so maybe, like I was a sickly one in the school, right? I can look at that and I can just be like, oh, you poor little thing. Instead of, I hate that weak part of me. Oh, I hate her. Like whenever you get in that energy, you're perpetuating more trauma. And so I want you to start tracking, like if something stops you, if you start getting overwhelmed, if you start noticing a trauma response, like sometimes, at least for me, when things are really stressful, my dog died this year, I had COVID this year, my brain goes back to a trauma response. And the trauma response for me is, holy shit, this is bad, this is terrible. And my brain like loops and loops and loops and loops, and I can't even stop it because that's how it was in trauma. And so part of it we also need to do is you need to go, whoa, how do I want to think right now? And who do I want to be right now? Right? And sometimes if you can learn how to reorient your thinking, which is imperative, because when trauma, let's say a really stressful thing happens. Let's say you lost a client, they fired you, or your husband got fired, or your kid got sick. If you have trauma in your history, you're going to go back to that experience. Like your brain, your body, your energy will reorient to that trauma. So you want to be like, okay, who do I need to be? So if the first one we have is you don't have permission, how do you give yourself permission? How do you give yourself and it's literally, I give myself permission to shine brightly. I give myself permission to be my fierce and brilliant, bold self. You can literally rewire by writing new affirmations. If you didn't understand the value, you want to start to understand your value, right? What are your clients saying? The people that are praying, I really believe there are people freaking praying for you, praying for your solution, your unique gift. All the shit that you've gone through is so you can help that one person. So focus on that. And then focus on, instead of a trauma response, rewire it by like, how do I want to be? I want to feel gratitude every day. I want to anchor myself in love. I want to walk in the room grounded. I want my thoughts to be focusing on what I desire and not what I don't want to create. So I could talk for days on this. This is just kind of an overview. Hope this has been helpful, and I would love to hear from you. Like, what'd you get out of it? And mostly make sure you download that free gift, the clearing process, because it's really powerful and you can use it again and again and again and again. All right. So glad you're here with me, and thank you for listening. And again, be in touch. All right. It's my goal to get you brilliant and get rid of that trauma thinking. Okay. Much love. Bye now. Hey, I really appreciate you listening to that last episode. And I would love to get to know you a little bit more and to get to connect with you on a deeper level. And here's what I suggest. I've got a Facebook group that corresponds with the content of these podcasts. It's called Fiercely Brilliant Women in Business with Therese Skelly. So if you just search Facebook, Fiercely Brilliant with Therese Skelly, you'll find the group. It's a really nice group. It's a small group, and I'm super active in it. So each week we have a lot of supportive conversations. I share a lot of resources. I do a lot of coaching on the spot, and I would love to have you join me there. So if you like the vibe of this podcast and you want to hang out with a pretty darn cool community of women, join us at Fiercely Brilliant on Facebook with Therese Skelly. Alrighty, peace and blessings, and I hope to see you in the group. Bye now.